Imagine it, the marble steps of the Forum, polished by sandals and bare feet. The golden light of dawn spilling across Rome's 7 hills. Senators in flowing togas debate the fate of nations while merchants shout prices in the crowded streets. The city hums with power, wealth, and spectacle. But behind that gleaming facade, beneath it, in fact, lurks another Rome. A Rome carved into the earth, hidden in shadows, where the price of empire is measured not in marble but in sweat, blood, and the silence of the dead. You feel the weight of chains on your wrists. Iron links, rubbed raw against your skin, stiff with rust and yesterday's blood. Guards with torches shove you forward. Their flames spit and crackle, shadows dancing like demons across the jagged rock. The air grows colder, damper, as you descend into a narrow shaft cut deep into the mountain's belly. The surface world fades behind you, the chatter of markets, the thunder of hooves, the sound of wind in the trees. Down here there is only the scrape of stone, the cough of dust-filled lungs, the mutter of condemned men resigned to another day of labor. This is the face of Rome they do not carve on monuments. No triumphal arch bears the names of those who perish in the dark. No poet sings of the miners choking in tunnels too narrow to stand upright. And yet it is here, beneath your feet, beneath the empire itself, that Rome's wealth is born. Gold, silver, copper, lead, iron. Precious veins hidden in stone, beaten out by broken bodies. Each coin that clinks in a senator's purse, each gilded statue glinting in a temple's light, each gleaming sword raised in victory. Every one of them owes its existence to men like you, dragged into the earth and left to vanish in silence. The guards bark orders. The language is Latin, harsh and clipped, but tone alone makes the meaning clear. Move, dig, obey. A whip snaps against stone, its echo snapping through your chest like lightning. Ahead, you see the miners already at work. Bent backs. Bare feet slick with mud. 100 shadows moving in rhythm, picks clanging against rock. The sound is deafening, metallic, relentless. It is not the sound of progress. It is the sound of despair. And yet, Rome above thrives because of this Rome below. The empire of roads and aqueducts, of gladiators and emperors, is balanced on the hunched shoulders of the underground. Without these mines, there are no coins to pay the legions. Without these oars, no swords, no helmets, no iron nails for the ships that sailed the Mediterranean. Rome's glory, for all its shine, is fed by darkness. Now, imagine the smell. Oil lamps sputtering, choking the air with greasy smoke. Sweat, sour and acrid, dripping from skin and pooling on the stone. Dust rising in choking clouds with each strike of the pickaxe, coating throats until every cough rattles like gravel. Some miners tie rags around their faces. Most simply cough and keep digging. Their lungs are graves in waiting. You glance up. The ceiling presses low. In places you cannot stand straight. Your shoulders brush damp walls, slick with condensation. The flicker of a torch shows cracks running like veins above you. At any moment, stone could give way. Many men never return from the mines, not because they fled, but because the mountains swallowed them whole. And yet, every day more descend. Prisoners of war, shackled slaves, criminals sentenced not to the arena but to this slower, crueler death. Few survive a year. Fewer still live long enough to taste freedom. Most die nameless in the dark. This is the hidden Rome. Not the Rome of marble, but the Rome of dust. Not the Rome of applause, but of silence. And as you stand there, lungs already burning, you realize the truth. The empire's splendor above cannot exist without this misery below. The guard shoves you again. The tunnel slopes deeper. The light fades. The air thickens. And with each step, you descend further into the empire's most carefully kept secret. The tunnel narrows, forcing you to stoop lower, your back aching with every step. The guards don't care if you stumble. Their torches flare, lighting the walls just enough for you to glimpse veins of stone shimmering faintly, threads of wealth buried in darkness. It is here, in these jagged lines and glittering flecks, that Rome's hunger begins. Imagine this, the empire stretching across 3 continents, roads unspooling like veins from the city at its heart. Legions march, temples rise, amphitheaters roar with crowds. And every single one of these things, every pay packet for a soldier, every marble column, every bronze helmet gleaming in the sun, depends on the minerals carved from places like this. Silver, gold, copper, iron, lead. Each with its own story, its own purpose, its own cost. Each mineral a currency of survival and conquest. You brush your hand against the wall, gritty dust clinging to your fingertips. There, a faint gleam. Silver ore locked inside stone. To the empire above, this is beauty, wealth, stability. To you, it is death, because to free it means lungs full of dust, muscles trembling with exhaustion, and a body that will never see the light of day again. But Rome's appetite was endless. Silver was the lifeblood of the empire's currency. Coins stamped with the faces of emperors passed from hand to hand in marketplaces, in taverns, in brothels, in the payment of soldiers who stood guard on the empire's frontiers. Without silver, Rome's economy faltered. Without men and mines, there was no silver. So here you are. Gold, rarer still, gleamed in jewelry, crowns, and offerings to the gods. Think of the temples you passed above, their altars heavy with golden bowls and ornaments. Every glint came from hands that blistered and bled beneath the earth. Every coin tossed into a fountain for luck carried the weight of suffering. Copper and iron, more common, had their own demands. Copper gave Rome its bronze, tools, weapons, pipes for aqueducts. Iron forged the swords of the legions, the nails for crucifixions, the shackles that now bind your wrists. Even lead, dull and poisonous, had its value. Rome poured it into pipes, into cooking pots, into cosmetics that whitened a noblewoman's face. The empire poisoned itself slowly with its own wealth. Step deeper. Listen. The pickaxes strike in rhythm, dull thuds echoing down the tunnels. A miner near you wheezes with each swing, his breath rattling, his chest already broken by dust. Yet he digs, because not to dig is to feel the lash. The overseers don't care whether you live another day, only that you free the treasures hidden in this stone. And oh, the treasures they wanted. Imagine carrying baskets heavy with ore up a shaft so narrow your shoulders scrape the walls. The air grows hotter with each step, sweat stinging your eyes. You stumble, but the guard above shouts and cracks his whip against the wood. Drop the load and you'll feel the bite of leather across your back, or worse, be left to rot where you fall. The baskets are dumped, sorted, and smelted. The silver separated from its stone, the gold coaxed from its veins. In furnaces blazing with heat, the rock becomes metal, and the metal becomes Rome. The smell of burning fills the air, sulfur, smoke, and something acrid that makes your throat close. Men cough, spit black phlegm, collapse. Another miner takes their place. The ore does not wait. Rome does not wait. And so, the empire shines. A senator at a feast lifts a golden cup, wine spilling down his chin. A soldier jingles the coins in his purse after weeks on campaign. A merchant counts his copper coins before buying grain. A noblewoman smooths lead paste across her face, not knowing she is painting herself with poison. Each of these luxuries, each convenience, is purchased by your labor below. Picture the Colosseum rising above the city. Its marble blocks fitted with iron clamps, its arches studded with bronze, its gates gleaming. None of it could exist without the metals from these mines. Rome's glory is an illusion, built on a foundation of shadows. And you, here in the dust, are the invisible architect. The guards bark again. Work faster. The sound of whips cracks through the tunnels. You see a boy, no more than 12, straining under a basket nearly his own weight. His knees buckle, but he staggers on. A man beside you mutters a prayer, Not to Jupiter, nor to Mars, but to any god who might still remember those buried in the dark. His lips are cracked, his eyes hollow, his voice little more than breath. You feel the walls close in. The torchlight flickers, dancing shadows across the glittering veins. For a moment, you almost see the wealth, the promise, the shimmer that drives the empire above. But then the dust catches in your throat, and you remember the truth. This beauty is not for you. It is for Rome. Always for Rome. And so you dig. Each strike of the pickaxe is a heartbeat. Each swing a reminder that the empire's wealth is written in your pain. The treasures beneath the earth are not gifts. They are chains binding you, binding all who labor here, to a Rome that will never know your name. The tunnel stretches ahead, darker, deeper, the veins of ore winding like rivers of false promise. And as you stumble forward, basket in hand, you realize, the deeper you go, the richer Rome becomes, and the poorer you grow. Step by step, strike by strike, the empire takes its treasure. And you, one breath at a time, give it everything. Your basket is emptied, the ore spilling onto a growing mound of jagged stone. The overseer barely glances at you before snapping his whip toward the next man. The rhythm is constant: dig, carry, dump, return. The chain is unending. And as you watch the faces around you, pale with dust, streaked with sweat, hollowed by hunger, you begin to understand. This is not a gathering of willing workers. No man chooses to crawl into the mountain's lungs, to breathe its poison and wait for the stone to bury him. No, this is a gathering of Rome's discarded, its conquered, its condemned. Imagine the parade of lives that fed into these tunnels. Prisoners of war, captured when legions swept across distant lands, Gauls, Dacians, Jews, Thracians, Greeks. Shackled, marched across continents, beaten when they faltered. Not all were thrown to the lions in Rome's arenas. Many were brought here, far from the eyes of cheering crowds, where their deaths bought no applause, only metal. Beside them, criminals. Men condemned for theft, rebellion, or simply for angering the wrong magistrate. Rome had a term for it: damnatio ad metalla, condemned to the mines. To be sentenced here was worse than death. Death was quick. The mines lingered. They stripped you of your name, your status, your future. You became nothing but a body in the dark, a tool until it broke. And then there were slaves, countless slaves, born into chains or sold by desperate families, traded like cattle in markets echoing with the cries of merchants. To some masters, slaves were property too valuable to waste. But others, seeking profit in metal, drove them here, knowing the mines would devour them within months. Better to buy another than nurse the broken. Look closer. Not all the miners are men. Women stumble under baskets too heavy for their frames, shoulders raw where the straps cut into skin. Their hair is matted with dust, their eyes dulled. Some were captured in raids, others dragged down alongside husbands or brothers. Rome did not discriminate when it came to labor in the dark. And then, the smallest shadows of all. Children. Their bodies fit where grown men could not. They crawled into shafts no wider than a coffin, their tiny hands scraping at stone, their lungs filling with dust before they had even learned the fullness of a breath. To Rome, a child was not a child. It was a tool, smaller, cheaper, easier to replace. You hear a cough nearby, thin and sharp. A boy emerges from a tunnel barely wider than his own chest, his face ghostly white beneath the grime. He blinks in the torchlight, dazed, as if sunlight itself has been forgotten. His arms tremble as he drags a sack of ore behind him, too heavy for his frame. No one helps him. They cannot. To stop is to draw the whip. The overseers patrol constantly. Torches flare in their hands, whips coiled at their sides, cudgels ready. Their task is simple: keep the shadows moving. One falter, one pause, one moment of rebellion, and the lash sings. You've already seen the scars, thick and raised, crisscrossing backs, shoulders, thighs. Flesh remembers pain long after it heals. And yet, for all this cruelty, the men and women here are not faceless. Each carries the weight of a stolen story. That man over there, his accent thick with the sound of Gaul, may once have held a farm, fields of grain stretching beneath the sky. That woman, stooped under her basket, perhaps once sang lullabies to a child who will never hear her again. That boy, coughing dust into his hands, should be chasing goats on a hillside, not choking in darkness. Rome's mines are not just holes in the earth. They are graves of memory. The guards shout again. Work does not pause for thought. Yet in the rhythm of picks and shovels, you hear more than stone breaking. You hear lives shattering. Archaeologists, centuries later, would uncover the bones. Cramped in tunnels, curled where rock collapsed. Spines bent unnaturally from labor. Teeth worn down, lungs scarred. Many were never given graves. They were left where they fell, entombed with the ore they carved. To Rome, they were expendable. To history, they whisper of the cost. And still, more are brought. Caravans of captives march to the mines. Traders sell children into pits. Criminals are sentenced without appeal. The empire is a hungry beast, and the mines are its stomach. The deeper it craves, the more bodies it consumes. You stumble, knees buckling, and for a moment you see their faces not as strangers but as mirrors. Any man could be here. Any woman. Any child. Rome's glory demands it. Its armies require pay. Its citizens require bread. Its emperors require monuments. And all of it, flows from this river of bodies hidden beneath stone. The overseer snarls at you. Move. Carry. Dig. You rise again, your muscles burning, and join the endless line of shadows. Step by step, basket by basket, Rome takes its laborers and breaks them. They come as men, women, children. They leave as silence. And above, the empire shines, never pausing to ask, who labored in the mines? The darkness is never truly gone. Even when the overseers drive you back toward the surface at night, the dust clings in your lungs, the smell of smoke and sweat follows you like a curse. You close your eyes, but the tunnels are still there, walls pressing close, shadows flickering, the echo of picks in the distance. And then, before your body has even found rest, before your bones remember what it feels like not to carry, the day begins again. There is no dawn here, not the way you once knew it. No soft light creeping through shutters, no birdsong, no warmth of rising sun. The morning of a Roman miner is announced instead by the crack of a whip, by shouted orders echoing through the camp. The guards move like wolves among the sleeping bodies, cudgels striking the ground, boots pounding against stone. Up! Up! You feel a boot jab into your ribs. Pain blooms, sharp and familiar. You push yourself upright, your body stiff, joints aching, throat raw from dust. Around you, the others stir, a shuffling, coughing chorus. Men, women, children, all driven awake not by rest but by command. The air is cold at first, biting as it seeps through the thin fabric of your tunic. But you know it will not stay cold for long. By the time you are deep in the earth, the heat will smother you, sweat will sting your eyes, and your skin will feel as if the rock itself is burning from within. Food? If you can call it that. A crust of bread hard enough to scrape your gums. Gruel thin as water, swallowed in haste before the guards shove you forward. Some receive nothing at all, late risers, those who falter, those the overseers deem unworthy of even the smallest ration. Hunger is another whip, one that gnaws from the inside. You chew quickly, if you are lucky enough to have something to chew at all. There is no savor here. Bread tastes of dust. Water tastes of rust. Hunger lingers no matter how much you swallow. Then comes a march. Chains rattle, feet shuffle, the line of condemned moving once more toward the black mouth of the mine. The torches flicker, casting long shadows on the ground, shadows that sway and twist as if the earth itself mocks you. Each step takes you farther from light, farther from air, farther from the world above where mornings mean warmth and life. The shaft yawns ahead, its wooden supports creaking like old bones. You feel the familiar drop in your chest as you step into the earth's throat. The air changes instantly. Damp. Heavy. It presses against your skin, fills your nostrils with the stink of oil smoke, mold, sweat. You breathe shallowly, but it does not help. The air itself is poison. Work begins immediately. There is no easing into the day, no pause to gather strength. Picks are thrust into hands, baskets onto backs. The overseer's eyes are everywhere. His whip cracks, his voice barks. Dig! The sound begins again, iron against stone, echoing, relentless. The rhythm of survival. Imagine yourself here. Muscles stiff, already trembling with fatigue from yesterday, forced again into labor. Each strike of the pick sends shock through your arms, rattles your bones, tears at the sinews of your back. Sweat beads on your skin though the day has barely begun. Dust rises, coats your lips, fills your throat until every breath is a cough. The tunnels are alive with motion. Men bending, straining, hauling. Children crawling into narrow cracks, scraping at stone with bare hands. Women stooped under baskets so heavy they stagger with each step. The light of oil lamps dances faintly, swallowed by shadow, never enough to pierce the dark. You see only fragments, faces streaked with grime, eyes dull with exhaustion, the occasional glint of ore in the rock. And always the knowledge, this day will last until your body breaks. There is no hourglass, no schedule, no respite. The shift does not end with the sun, for the sun does not touch this place. It ends only when the overseers decree it, when the baskets overflow, when enough stone has been torn from the earth to satisfy Rome's hunger. Sometimes that means 12 hours. Sometimes 14. Sometimes more. The day stretches endlessly, a weight pressing down, each moment identical to the last. Strike, carry, dump, return. Strike, carry, dump, return. The rhythm of despair. Yet within it, you notice fragments of humanity clinging on. A man hums under his breath as he works, some old song from a homeland far away. His voice is hoarse, but the melody lingers, a ghost of another life. A woman adjusts the strap of a child's basket, whispering words you cannot hear but know are meant to soothe. A boy pauses to share a crust of bread he has saved, slipping it into another's hand when the overseer is not looking. Even here, in the stomach of the empire, people cling to scraps of kindness. But the overseers see it differently. To them, the miners are not people but tools, bodies to be used until they break. The day begins with cruelty, continues with cruelty, and will end with cruelty. A man who stumbles is lashed. A woman who collapses is dragged aside, left to lie until she rises again, or does not. A child too slow in the narrow tunnels is struck until he moves faster, even if his small hands bleed. And above, Rome shines. Senators debate. Merchants trade. Citizens cheer at games. All of it fueled by the rhythm of mornings like this, mornings that begin not with light but with darkness, not with promise but with pain. You pause for a moment, leaning on your pick, breath rasping in your throat. The overseer notices. His whip cracks, the sound slicing through the air like fire. You stagger upright, force yourself to strike again, the pain in your arms drowned by the greater fear of the lash. The day has only just begun. And already, you feel the weight of eternity pressing in. The first thing you notice isn't the weight of the pickaxe, nor the ache in your back, nor even the sting of the whip when it bites your skin. It's the air. Always the air. It presses on you like an invisible hand, smothering, heavy. Each breath feels stolen, dragged unwillingly into your lungs. Down here, deep in the earth, air does not flow freely. It lingers. It grows stale. It turns against you. The lamps are to blame. Small clay bowls of oil with rag wicks sputtering faint flames. They are your only light, your only shield against the dark. but they devour the air, gulping greedily, releasing a smoke that coils through the tunnels. You breathe it in without choice. Every inhalation tastes of burnt oil, sharp and acrid, searing your throat. The smoke clings to your chest, makes your lungs feel smaller, tighter, as though the rock itself squeezes you from within. Then there is the dust. Endless dust, rising with each strike of pick against stone. It drifts through the shafts in clouds, catching in the weak lamplight like swarms of insects. Fine as flour, it coats your lips, your teeth, your tongue. You swallow, but it doesn't leave. It sticks in your throat, lining your lungs, a slow burial from the inside out. Coughs echo everywhere. Harsh, rasping, wet. Some men spit dark clots onto the ground, the dust having fused with blood in their lungs. Others try to hold the coughs back, fearing the overseer's anger, but it builds until it bursts out, bending them double with pain. The air itself is an enemy here. Imagine trying to breathe while your chest is crushed beneath stone. That is what every hour feels like. The deeper you go, the worse it becomes. The shafts are narrow, barely wide enough for two men to pass, and the air grows hotter, heavier. There is no breeze. No relief. Just the damp, cloying atmosphere, thick with smoke and dust and sweat. And yet you must keep breathing. You must keep digging. You have no choice. Some miners tie rags over their mouths, dampened with spit or water, a pitiful attempt to filter the air. It helps for a moment, until the cloth clogs with dust and becomes a suffocating mask. Children, crawling into the smallest tunnels, often come back gasping, their faces gray, their lips tinged blue. Sometimes they do not come back at all. The overseers drag their bodies out, shove them aside, and send another child in. The mind does not stop for breath. You glance upward. The ceiling drips with condensation, cold drops striking your neck. The walls sweat too, slick with moisture, feeding the damp air. It smells of mold, of rot, of decay. Every inhale feels like a swallow of earth itself, wet stone, oil smoke, the faint metallic tang of ore. And there is another smell, sharper, crueler, sulfur. In some tunnels, the air burns as you breathe it, stinging your eyes, making your chest seize. The Romans knew of these vapors, feared them, but still they drove men into them. Poison or not, the ore must be taken. Better to lose a few slaves than to lose the metal Rome demands. Imagine yourself there now. You stoop low, lamp in hand, your lungs already aching. The tunnel closes around you. Your breath quickens, shallow, desperate. Each inhale drags smoke and dust deeper inside. Your head pounds, your vision swims. Still you swing the pick, still you scrape at the wall, because to stop is to feel the lash or the cudgel. Your body begs for air, but there is none worth breathing. And above, far above, the world enjoys fresh breezes, open skies, the sweet smell of grass and rain. Up there, life moves with ease. Down here, every breath is borrowed time. Historians, centuries later, would find traces of this struggle. Skeletal remains with ribs twisted from chronic coughing, teeth ground down from constant grit, bone lesions from poison carried in through the lungs. The mines did not merely kill by collapse or exhaustion. They killed slowly, invisibly, with every breath. Yet the miners endured, because they had no choice. Their lungs filled with stone dust, their throats raw from smoke, their bodies weakened by poisoned air, and still they dug. Still they hauled. Still they lived, for as long as living meant swinging a pick in the dark. And you, here in this imagined descent, feel it too. The air thickens, your chest grows tight, your breath rasps in your ears. You long to climb back, to find the surface, to drink deep of clean air. But the guards stand at the shafts, whips ready, faces hard. There is no escape. The mine has claimed your lungs as surely as it claims the ore in its walls. The air below is not meant for life. It is meant for labor. For death. For Rome. The air claws at your throat, but the dark does something stranger still. Down here, sight itself becomes fragile. The only light comes from the lamps, small, shallow bowls of clay or bronze, filled with oil, a rag wick smoldering. They burn weakly, a dull yellow flame that sputters with every draft. Set them along the tunnels, hang them from wooden beams, carry them in trembling hands, still, the darkness swallows them whole. Imagine a sea at midnight. Drop a single candle into its depths. That is how the lamps feel here. You shuffle forward, the lamp in your grip no bigger than your palm. Its glow reaches barely a foot in front of you, casting everything else into shadow. The walls loom close, but even they blur, half seen, half imagined. A glint of stone here, a trickle of water there, a crack running jagged above your head. Beyond that, nothing but black. The darkness is not empty. It breathes. It shifts. It seems to move when you are not looking, curling at the edges of your vision. In its weight, your mind begins to conjure things, shapes bending where no shape is, figures waiting where no figure could be. The mind whispers lies through the dark, and without light you cannot argue back. The miners know this. That is why the lamps are guarded, prized, fought over. A flame can mean the difference between life and madness. Lose it, and the shadows devour you. And yet light is treacherous too. Its flicker deceives as much as it reveals. You glance at the wall and see veins of ore glimmer, gold? Silver? But then the flame wavers, and it is nothing but quartz. You look down a passage and swear you see movement, but the shadow is only your own, stretched grotesque against stone. Even your fellow miners, faces streaked with soot, appear half human, half phantom in the shifting glow. For children forced into the narrowest shafts, there is often no lamp at all. They crawl into crevices with nothing but touch to guide them, the rock pressing in on every side. Imagine that absolute blackness, the stones scraping your arms, your knees, the dust choking you, the air hotter with each inch. You stretch a hand forward and there is nothing. You stretch again and there is still nothing. The dark becomes endless, a tunnel with no end. Only when you drag yourself backward, trembling, gasping, do you see again the faint glow of the lamp waiting at the shaft's mouth. It is in this half-light that work continues. Picks strike, baskets are filled, or is dragged away, all in a flickering twilight that never changes. Day and night mean nothing here. The sun may rise and set above, but the minds know only the language of shadows. You learn to read them. A long shadow stretching sharp across the ground means a torch is near. A sudden dark blotch on the wall means a fellow miner has passed in front of the flame. A dimming glow means the oil is running out, and with it your safety. Sometimes lamps fall. A whip cracks, a body stumbles, and the clay shatters on stone. The flame dies, leaving a tunnel in absolute blackness. Panic spreads quickly. Voices shout, bodies collide, baskets spill. In the rush, the air fills with more dust, with more screams, until someone brings another flame, steadying the dark again. But by then, bruises and broken bones are common. Darkness is as dangerous as any cave-in. The overseers know this. They carry larger torches, brighter, casting wide pools of light that declare their presence long before the whip does. Their glow is not comfort. It is threat. When you see it approach, you work harder, faster, hoping not to be noticed. The shadow of a guard stretches tall on the wall, monstrous, distorted by the flame, an omen of pain. And always, the shadows hide things. A crack widening slowly in the ceiling. A stone dislodged, poised to fall. A body slumped in a corner, unmoving, overlooked until someone stumbles on it. The lamps show only what they want to show. The rest remains concealed, waiting. Your own body becomes strange in this light. You look down at your hands, black with soot, the skin dry and cracked. The flame paints them in orange, like hands dipped in blood. Your face, when glimpsed in the reflection of water trickling down the wall, is distorted, hollow-eyed, spectral. You are no longer certain what you look like in the sun. Does your skin still hold color? Do your eyes still shine? Or has the mind claimed even that? Above, Rome dazzles in sunlight. White marble gleams, gilded statues sparkle, fountains scatter light into rainbows. Citizens stroll beneath awnings, merchants polish bronze vessels until they gleam. The empire thrives in brilliance. Yet all that brilliance comes from those condemned to work where the sun never shines, where the only light is feeble, failing, forever threatened by darkness. You step deeper, lamp in hand. The tunnel curves, bends. The flame wavers. For a moment, the shadow of your body stretches ahead of you, tall, elongated, leading the way like a ghost of yourself already lost. And you understand, down here, light is not your ally. It is only a reminder of how much darkness surrounds you. The day goes on. The lamps burn low. The oil dwindles. Shadows grow longer, thicker, swallowing even the faint glow. And in that gloom, you realize, in Rome's mines, light is never enough. It flickers. It lies. It fades. And the darkness always wins. The darkness is bad enough. The smoke, the dust, the shadows that twist your mind into seeing things that aren't there. But soon another enemy presses against you, heavier than chains, thicker than the dark. The heat. It creeps first, rising slowly, a subtle weight on your skin as you move deeper into the shaft. The air grows warmer, damp, your tunic clinging to your back. Then hotter, thicker, until every breath feels like swallowing steam. The walls themselves radiate warmth, as though the earth resents being carved open and answers with fire from within. There are moments, many moments, when the mind feels less like a workplace and more like a furnace. Sweat begins almost instantly, trickling down your forehead, stinging your eyes, soaking your chest. It drips into the dust, leaving dark marks on stone. But sweat is no relief. It evaporates too quickly, leaving you only thirstier, weaker. Imagine laboring for 12 hours with no breeze, no sky, no cool air. Your body becomes its own prison. Heat builds in your chest, your heart pounding faster, harder, as if trying to escape. Muscles cramp, limbs grow heavy, your very skin burns as though stretched too tight. And yet you must keep moving. The deeper the tunnel, the worse it becomes. Air stagnates, hot and stale. Oil lamps flare brighter, throwing off their own small heat, but offer no comfort. Fires roar in furnaces near the smelting pits, raising the temperature to unbearable levels. To stand too close is to feel your skin sear, but to step back is to invite the whip. Men faint often. You see it happen daily. A miner drops mid-swing, his body collapsing onto the stone, chest heaving. Sweat pools beneath him. Sometimes he rises again, dragged to his feet by the overseer's lash. Sometimes he does not. When he doesn't, the guards simply drag him aside, leaving his body until the shift ends. Work does not stop for death. And yet, thirst gnaws more cruelly than the heat itself. Water is rationed, given in small measures, barely enough to wet your tongue. The taste is metallic, sometimes brackish, carried in jars that have sat too long. But you drink anyway, because your throat is raw, your lips cracked, your head spinning with dizziness. Some steal sips when the guards aren't looking, but if caught, the punishment is swift. Better to choke on thirst than to feel the lash flay your back. Children suffer worst of all. Their small bodies dehydrate quickly, their faces flushed, eyes rolling back as they stumble from tunnel to tunnel. Mothers, if they are near, try to shield them, fanning them weakly with scraps of cloth. But there is no air to move, no wind to catch. Only heat, pressing from every direction. The Romans knew these conditions. Some writings survive, brief, clinical notes, remarks by those who oversaw the mines or profited from them. They speak of exhaustion, of shortened lives, of suffocation, words that reduce agony to statistics. But for the miners, heat was not an entry in a ledger. It was a constant torment, stripping flesh and spirit alike. And it was not just the body that suffered. The mind, too, frayed under the oppression. In the sweltering air, hallucinations came easily. Shapes in the dark seemed to move. Faces blurred. The ringing in your ears became voices. Some swore they saw gods in the shadows, Mercury, Pluto, Vulcan, figures of both wealth and death. Were they visions, or the mind unraveling in the furnace of the earth? No one could say. You wipe your face, but the sweat only returns. It trickles into your eyes, mixing with dust, burning worse than tears. Your hands slip on the pickaxe, the handle slick. You tighten your grip, splinters biting your palms. The overseer watches, whip ready, his torch flaring with its own heat. There is no pause, no excuse. The ore must be freed. Above, Rome basks in sunlight, but not like this. The warmth on the streets is gentle, broken by breezes off the Tiber, softened by awnings stretched over forums. Citizens cool themselves with fountains, pouring fresh water over their faces, sipping wine chilled in cellars. Heat, to them, is leisure, a bath, a sunlit stroll, a summer feast. They do not know this heat, this living fire that suffocates without flame. In time you stop thinking of relief. There is no thought of cool air, no hope of water, no memory of what it feels like not to sweat. The heat becomes your world, your prison. Each breath burns, each step staggers, each heartbeat pounds louder, heavier. And then, perhaps, the strangest truth of all, you stop noticing. Your body adapts, not by growing stronger, but by surrendering. You become numb. Your skin burns, but you no longer flinch. Your throat aches, but you no longer crave. You keep moving, half conscious, half dreaming, your mind detached from the labor. This is survival, of a sort. Not true endurance, but slow surrender. The guards know this. They know the heat will break you faster than the whip. And so they push, harder, always harder, knowing the mine itself will do half their work for them. When the shift finally ends, if it ends, you stumble back toward the shaft, drenched, trembling, your body shivering despite the furnace air. The moment you touch cooler air near the surface, your skin prickles, your stomach churns. Many vomit from the shock. Others collapse entirely, unable to cross the final threshold. Some never leave the heat at all. The mind swallows them. And tomorrow, at dawn, it will swallow you again. The heat is patient. It waits. It presses. It never leaves. And in Rome's mines, it is as much a master as any overseer. The heat presses. The darkness swallows. But worse than both is the silence that comes when the mine itself stirs. Every miner knows the sound. A groan, low and deep, like the earth itself shifting in its sleep. A crack, sharp and sudden, echoing down the tunnels. The patter of dust trickling from the ceiling, grains falling like sand in an hourglass. Each sound is a warning, a reminder that the walls and ceiling around you are not walls at all but weight. Tons of it, waiting to fall. The mine is alive. And it does not care if you live. You glance upward often, though the flickering lamp makes the ceiling a blur. Wooden beams, wedged into place, strain beneath the pressure. Some are split already, their surfaces bowed and cracked. Others groan audibly when struck by the vibration of picks. You know they cannot hold forever. You know that someday, perhaps today, perhaps now, the stone will give way. And when it does, there will be no escape. Imagine the terror. You are deep in a narrow shaft, barely wide enough for your shoulders, your only light a trembling flame. Suddenly the rock shifts. Dust fills the air. A roar begins, louder than thunder, closer than breath. The ceiling drops, stone crashes, the tunnel becomes a tomb in a heartbeat. You cannot run. You cannot even scream, the dust steals your voice. You are buried before you can draw another breath. This happens often. Too often. The overseers do not record the dead. They do not mark the graves. When stone collapses, those beneath it are left where they fall. To dig them out would waste time, cost labor, risk more lives. Better to leave the bodies entombed, their flesh pressed into the earth alongside the ore they once dug. The mine keeps its own dead. And yet work continues. Always. The collapse of one tunnel is the beginning of another. The overseers drive new shafts beside the broken, ignoring the echoes of groans beneath their feet. You see the signs everywhere. Broken picks left beside rockfall. Shattered baskets buried half in rubble. A limb, sometimes, protruding from stone, skeletal fingers reaching out as if for help that never came. No one dares touch it. No one dares look too long. To do so is to imagine your own fate mirrored in that hand. The miners whisper prayers, sometimes to Roman gods, sometimes to older ones carried from distant homelands. A Gaul might murmur to Tyrannes, a Jew to Yahweh, a Greek to Hades. Names change, but the plea is the same, let the stone hold. Let me live one more day. But prayers are brittle things in the face of earth's hunger. The danger is not only from above. The floors, too, betray you. Water seeps through cracks, softening stone, turning dirt to mud. A step that feels solid one moment collapses the next, dropping you into pits hidden below. Men vanish that way, swallowed by the mine's throat. Their screams echo once, then are gone. And then there is fire. Oil lamps, dropped in panic, spill their fuel. A spark in the wrong place ignites gases that seep from the earth. Sulfur, methane, invisible killers. The explosion rips through tunnels, blowing out flames, filling the air with choking smoke. Survivors stagger blind, lungs seared, eyes burning. Many never find their way out. Everywhere, danger waits. You learn to walk lightly, to listen always, to feel the tremor of rock beneath your feet. Even in sleep, you dream of collapse, of stone pressing into your chest, of dust filling your lungs. You wake gasping, clutching at the earth, only to be driven back into the same danger again. And yet, work does not stop. Rome cannot stop. The mines are too valuable, the ore too necessary. The overseers shrug at collapse, shrug at fire, shrug at death. To them, the danger is part of the cost. Slaves are plentiful. Prisoners are endless. Bodies are cheap. Stone is eternal. Still, fear gnaws at you with every swing of the pick. Every time dust falls from the ceiling, you flinch. Every time the wall cracks, your heart lurches. You glance at the wooden beams, at the trembling lamp, at the shadow of your own body quivering on the wall. Will this be the moment? Will this be the last breath? And in truth, many do not survive long enough to ask twice. The ever-present danger is not a possibility. It is a certainty. It waits for you. It waits for everyone. And someday, soon, sooner than you hope, it will take you. Until then, you dig. The walls groan, dust falls, men flinch at the thought of sudden collapse. But not every death comes in thunder. Some arrive quietly, drop by drop. Water seeps everywhere in the mines. It drips from ceilings, trickles down walls, pools on the floors until the earth becomes mud. Sometimes it gathers in shafts so deep they flood entirely, black water rising until tunnels vanish beneath its surface. The miners are sent in anyway, wading knee-deep, waist-deep, sometimes chest-deep, the cold gnawing into their bones. Their baskets grow heavier, their steps slower. And when the water climbs too high, children are pushed forward, their small bodies forced into spaces adults can no longer reach. The smell alone is enough to tell you what waits in these pools. Stagnant, foul, thick with the stench of rot. Oil from fallen lamps floats in rainbow sheens across the surface. Dead rats bob in corners. Sometimes, so do dead men. The water hides them until a foot strikes soft flesh and a scream tears through the dark. You take a step and feel the mud pull at your ankles, sucking, clinging, dragging you down. Each movement is harder than the last, your breath already shallow from the heat, your muscles shaking from exhaustion. The overseers shout, wave their torches, demand faster work. But the water does not care for speed. It slows everything. It swallows everything. And with the water comes disease. Always disease. Skin softens in the damp, cracks open, festers. Wounds fill with filth, swelling, reddening, until the pain makes even lifting a pick unbearable. Feet rot in boots or bare against the mud, sores turning black. Lungs fill with more than dust, they fill with spores, with mildew, with the damp rot that clings to every stone. Coughs spread quickly, echoing through tunnels until the mine itself seems to rasp. Some cough blood, dark and thick, spattering the stone. Others shiver uncontrollably even in the furnace heat, fevers burning from within while the damp chills their skin from without. Once a man begins to shake, to sweat cold, to mutter in delirium, his fate is sealed. There is no healer in the mines. No herbs, no prayers strong enough. The overseers drag him aside, leave him in the dark, and move on. And water breeds more than sickness. It breeds vermin. Rats scurry in the shadows, their red eyes glinting in the lamplight, their teeth gnawing at scraps of bread, or at flesh when the chance comes. Lice thrive in damp rags, burrowing into skin until every inch of the body itches raw. Flies gather where bodies rot, laying eggs that hatch into maggots squirming in wounds. Imagine your arm split open by a stone, then imagine that wound left unwashed, pressed against mud, crawling with flies. Within days the flesh swells, darkens, the stench rising with it. There is no surgeon here, no salve. Infection does what the whip cannot. It kills slowly, painfully, without spectacle. And always thirst remains. Ironically, surrounded by water, you have none safe to drink. What fills the shafts is foul, brackish poison. Those desperate enough to sip it sicken quickly, stomachs twisting, bowels loosening, strength pouring out faster than it can be restored. Dysentery sweeps through groups like fire through dry brush. Men double over in agony, unable to work, yet forced to lift, to dig, to carry. The overseers do not care if you soil yourself in the dark. They care only that the baskets move. The Romans themselves knew the danger. In their writings, they sometimes mentioned mala aquarum, bad waters. Yet still they sent bodies into the shafts. Better to lose men to sickness than to lose ore to the mountain. Floods, too, were constant. Heavy rains seeped into tunnels, turning trickles into torrents. One storm above could mean drowning below. Water rushed in, extinguishing lamps, sweeping men off their feet, filling shafts faster than they could climb. Those who survived clung to beams, gasping in blackness, praying for the flood to recede before their strength failed. Those who did not were left beneath the rising tide, lungs bursting, bodies pressed into the mud. The damp air never left you. Even when the shift ended, even when you stumbled to the surface, you carried it in your lungs, in your skin, in your bones. You coughed through the night, spat into the dirt, woke shivering though the air above was warm. Your body was not your own anymore. It belonged to the mine, soaked through, rotting from within. And yet still you returned. Because you had no choice. Because Rome demanded it. Because every coin stamped with an emperor's face, every statue gleaming in a temple, every sword raised by a soldier, required that someone drown in mud and sickness first. The water pooled. The rot spread. The disease grew. And the mine devoured quietly, endlessly. Until, one day, it will devour you too. The water clings to you, the sickness festers in your bones, but none of it matters if you cannot endure the cruelty of the men who hold the whips. Every mine has its shadows, but the darkest are not cast by stone. They are cast by the overseers. They move through the tunnels like predators, torches spitting smoke, eyes sharp as blades. Their voices echo down the shafts, short, barking commands that cut through the clamor of picks and coughing. Faster. Lift. Strike. Move. Each word is punctuated by the crack of leather, the dull thud of a cudgel against flesh. The lash is never far. Curled in the overseer's fist, coiled at his belt, ready at every falter. The sound of it, sharp, slicing, travels faster than the torchlight itself. A man pauses to wipe sweat from his eyes. The whip bites across his back. A child stumbles under the weight of ore. The whip finds his legs. A woman coughs too long, bent double. The whip lashes her shoulders until she rises again. Punishment is not about correction. It is about fear. The overseers know the mine itself breaks bodies. Their task is to break spirits, and they do so with efficiency. Some prefer the whip, the clean, fast strike that leaves lines of red across skin. Others carry rods of wood or iron, delivering blunt blows that bruise ribs, crack jaws, split lips. The unlucky feel both, the sting of lash, then the thud of cudgel, a rhythm of pain meant to remind you of your place. There are worse punishments still. Men caught stealing a sip of water are tied to beams, their backs flayed until skin hangs in strips. Workers too slow are bound in chains heavier than their own baskets, forced to crawl like animals until exhaustion drags them down. Rebels, those few who dare raise voice or fist against their masters, are made examples. Beaten to death before the others, their bodies left sprawled in the mud, torches casting grotesque shadows over the lesson, obedience or death. Imagine standing there, pick still in your hand, watching as a fellow miner collapses beneath the lash. His cries echo off stone, mingling with the rhythm of work, with the coughs and groans that never cease. You do not dare look too long, nor too little. Either could be seen as insolence. You keep your head low, your arms moving, pretending not to hear what you cannot ignore. And always, the overseer's eyes roam. They are not blind. They know when your swing weakens, when your step slows, when your back straightens for just a heartbeat too long. They strike not because they must, but because they can. Because cruelty itself is a tool, as sharp as the picks you wield. Rome had a word for those condemned to the mines, damnati ad metalla. The damned to the metals. It was not a sentence of labor. It was a sentence of death. The overseers understood this well. Their task was not to keep you alive. It was to keep you working until you died. Some carried records, tallying or hauled, baskets filled, bodies broken. Numbers mattered more than names. You were not Marcus, nor Julia, nor Diodoros. You were one more mark in the overseer's ledger, one more body to be driven until it broke. At times, punishment extended beyond flesh. Food rations withheld. Water denied. Sleep stolen as men were forced to labor through the night. The cruelty was precise, calculated. A starving worker swings slower. A thirsty worker falters quicker. A sleepless worker makes mistakes. And mistakes meant death, or worse, more punishment. The overseers were not alone. Guards patrolled as well, armed with swords, shields, spears. They were there not to defend against outsiders, but to ensure none within dared escape. The mine was a prison without walls. The guards were its bars. And yet, even under their eyes, fragments of defiance flickered. A muttered curse when the overseer's back was turned. A stolen sip of water passed hand to hand. A whispered story in a forgotten tongue, reminding miners of homes they would never see again. Small rebellions, invisible to most, but vital to those who endured. The overseers hated such sparks. They stamped them out whenever found. A man caught whispering was dragged into the open and beaten before all. A woman caught sharing food was lashed until her body failed. Children were not spared. Their cries served as warning to others. Fear was the overseer's true tool. The lash was only its shadow. And yet, think of the irony. These men, cruel and feared in the tunnels, were themselves small in the world above. Overseers were often freedmen or soldiers too broken for war, men clinging to power where they could find it. Their authority existed only in the mine. Outside, they were despised, avoided, seen as tainted by the filth they commanded. Their whips gave them strength below, but robbed them of honor above. Still, here, in the depths, they were gods. Their word was law. Their punishments were final. And you, bound in chains, drenched in sweat, coughing blood, were theirs to command. Imagine it, you swing your pick too slow. The whip cracks. Pain blossoms across your back. You bite down on your tongue, tasting iron, forcing yourself not to cry out. To cry is weakness. To falter is death. You lift the pick again, muscles screaming, and strike. The overseer moves on. The mind breathes. The cycle continues. This is Rome's justice for the condemned. Not swift, not merciful, but endless. The lash, the cudgel, the hunger, the thirst, these are the punishments. But the greatest punishment of all is knowing there is no escape. That tomorrow, when the whip cracks again at dawn, you will rise. And the overseers will be waiting. The lash fades into silence, footsteps of the overseer retreating down the tunnel. But the ache he leaves behind does not fade. It lingers, throbbing beneath the skin, joining a deeper pain already carved into every bone of your body. Exhaustion is not sudden here. It does not strike like a cave-in, nor burn like the furnace air. It seeps slowly, like water through cracks, until it fills you entirely. From the moment the whip wakes you at dawn to the moment you stumble back at night, the body is never allowed rest. 12 hours, sometimes 14, sometimes longer, the day stretches without measure, without mercy. Picks swing, baskets rise, feet drag through mud. And then, when it ends, there is no comfort. No real food, no clean water, no soft bedding to heal the muscles. Only the hard ground, the rags on your back, and the knowledge that tomorrow will begin the same way. Your shoulders sag beneath the weight of the basket. The straps bite deeper with each step, raw grooves worn into the flesh. Your arms tremble as you lift the pick, each swing weaker than the last. Your knees buckle on the uneven ground, joints swollen, ligaments stretched. You feel your own body collapsing, bit by bit, a slow unbuilding of the person you once were. The children break first. Small bodies cannot endure long shifts, heavy loads, choking dust. Their arms tire quickly, their legs shake, their eyes glaze with fever. Many collapse before the day is half over. They are dragged aside, left in the shadows until they rise again, or never rise at all. Mothers whisper to them, beg them to hold on. But what can words do against hunger and exhaustion? Men fall too, even the strongest. Muscles torn, bones fractured, backs bent beyond repair. Some never stand straight again, their spines twisted from years of carrying ore. Others simply stop. Mid-swing, mid-step, mid-breath, they stop, as though the body has finally understood there is no point in continuing. The overseers beat them, drag them, curse them, but nothing revives them. They are broken. And then there is despair. The mind frays as surely as the body. Days blur together, each one identical, each one an echo of the last. There is no horizon here, no sunrise or sunset to mark the passage of time. Only the whip, the dust, the endless dark. Weeks, months, years. Who can say how long one has labored when every moment feels the same? You feel it yourself, a hollowing, as though something inside has drained away. Hope, once sharp, fades. Dreams of escape grow dim. Even memories blur, faces of family, voices of friends, fields, rivers, skies. All grow faint in the suffocating dark. Soon, the mind itself becomes your only reality, the only world you know. Some whisper of freedom. Of men who escaped, who fled into mountains, who found refuge beyond Rome's reach. But such stories are rare, told in hushed voices, half believed. The truth is crueler, escape is nearly impossible. Guards patrol, chains bind, whips punish. And even if you fled, where would you go? You are a slave, a criminal, a condemned. The world beyond does not welcome you. The mind is your cage, and despair its lock. Others whisper of death as release. To fall beneath stone. To drown in water. To let the body collapse and never rise again. For some, this is not fear but comfort, a promise that the mind cannot hold them forever. Yet death, too, is stolen. Bodies are discarded, left without rights, without names, without rest. Even in death, the mind claims you. Exhaustion dulls the senses. The whip strikes, but you hardly feel it. The heat burns, but you barely notice. Hunger gnaws, thirst tortures, but all blend into a single ache that never leaves. You become something less than human, something that moves, carries, digs, but no longer truly lives. And still, Rome demands more. Above, citizens lounge in baths, warm water washing away their fatigue. They feast at banquets, reclining on couches, sipping wine until they drowse in contentment. They sleep in beds soft with wool, waking refreshed beneath the rising sun. Their comfort is built on your exhaustion, their peace on your despair. You lean on your pick, chest heaving, sweat dripping, legs trembling. You want to stop. Every bone in your body screams to stop. But you lift the pick again. You strike. Because to stop is to invite the whip. To stop is to collapse in the mud. To stop is to vanish into the silence the mind keeps for all it's dead. This is exhaustion. This is despair. Not a moment, not a day, but a lifetime, repeated until the body breaks. And as you stumble forward, your basket heavy once more, you know the truth. Rome's greatness is not carved in marble. It is carved into the backs of those too tired to stand, too broken to hope, too lost to remember who they once were. Hunger is always with you. It gnaws more faithfully than the lash, more persistently than the heat. It wakes with you at dawn and follows you into the dark, its teeth never loosening their grip. Rome feeds its miners, but only just. Enough to keep arms moving, backs bending, lungs breathing. Never enough to nourish. Your morning begins with a scrap of bread, coarse and dark, hard at the edges where it has gone stale. You chew slowly, but it does not fill you. It scratches your throat, turns to dust on your tongue. Sometimes there is gruel, thin and watery, a handful of barley boiled into a paste more like mud than food. Sometimes not. The overseers decide. At midday, if you can call it that in a place without sun, you may be given another crust, another ladle of gruel. Perhaps a smear of olive mash if luck smiles. Water, cloudy and metallic, is rationed in clay cups, barely enough to wet the lips. It tastes of rust, sometimes of mildew, sometimes of the skin of the jar in which it has sat too long. But you drink anyway, because thirst burns hotter than hunger. The body shrinks under such rations. Muscles wither, ribs press sharp against skin, bellies hollow. Children become skeletal, their limbs thin as reeds, their eyes too large for their faces. Men once broad and strong grow gaunt, their strength drained, their backs bowed. Women's hair falls out, their skin turns sallow, their breasts dry until no child can feed. And yet, work does not slow. Or must be carried, picks must swing. So the body devours itself, fat first, then muscle, then spirit. Hunger eats from the inside what the overseers strike from the outside. Sometimes scraps of meat appear. Salted pork, tough as leather. Fish, half rotten, its smell filling the tunnel long before its taste reaches your tongue. These are rare, given more often to guards than to miners. When they trickle down to you, they are less gift than mockery, enough to remind you of what real food might be, never enough to satisfy. You dream of food constantly. Not feasts, not banquets, not the endless courses served at senators' tables. Just bread, fresh and soft. Just water, clean and cool. Just fruit, sweet and dripping with juice. These dreams haunt you more than the dark. They follow you into sleep, into waking, into every weary swing of the pick. Hunger turns memory itself into torment. Some steal when they can. A crust snatched from another's ration, a handful of grain dropped, accidentally, into a tunic. Children are quickest, darting forward, hiding scraps beneath rags. But theft is dangerous. If caught, the punishment is swift and brutal. Food is life, and Rome guards it jealously. Many have died not for rebellion, not for escape, but for stealing a mouthful of bread. And so you endure? You chew slowly, you drink sparingly, you scrape the bottom of the bowl with your fingers to gather the last taste of grain. You lick the salt from your own sweat, desperate for minerals your body craves. Hunger strips dignity as surely as chains strip freedom. The irony stings. Above, Rome is famous for its food. Citizens feast in taverns, gladiators gorge to prepare for combat, emperors dine on delicacies from every corner of the empire. Figs from Syria, oysters from Britain, spices from India. Banquets overflow with meats, wines, honeyed cakes. Above, food is abundance, luxury excess. Below, food is ration, hunger, absence. Your belly growls even as you work, cramping, twisting. Weakness spreads through your limbs, slowing you, making the basket heavier, the pick harder to lift. The overseer notices, his whip ready. Hunger is both punishment and pretext, an overseer's excuse to strike harder, to remind you that survival is not your right but Rome's gift. Some miners find strange ways to endure. They chew leather straps to trick the stomach into believing it has been fed. They suck on stones, pretending the pressure is fullness. They scrape moss from damp walls, though it sickens more often than it soothes. A few, in desperation, eat rats caught scurrying in the dark, their flesh stringy, their taste foul, but still food. Hunger makes you inventive. Hunger makes you cruel. There are whispers of fights over rations, men killing for bread, mothers clawing at each other for the chance to feed their child a single mouthful. In the mine, food is worth more than gold. Gold feeds Rome. Bread feeds you. And yet, no matter how desperate, no matter how inventive, the hunger never leaves. It grows each day, a constant shadow beneath the shadow of the mine. It wears you down more effectively than any overseer's whip. A starving man will not rebel. A starving man will not escape. A starving man will dig until he dies. Rome knows this well. And so the rations remain just enough. Never more. Always less. The mind devours or hunger devours you. Both feed Rome. Hunger shrinks the body. It withers men, hollows women, and reduces children to little more than bones. But for the overseers, this wasting is not a tragedy, it is an advantage. Small bodies fit where grown men cannot. Children are the mind's cruelest tools. They are sent where no adult can go, into the narrowest tunnels, the veins of ore that twist like veins of blood through the rock. Shafts scarcely wider than a coffin. Passages that force the body to crawl on elbows and knees, pressed tight, stones scraping against skin with every movement. The guards push them forward, lamps flickering in their hands. Go! They command, and the children obey. Some weep, some beg, but all crawl. Behind them, the darkness closes. Ahead, only more darkness waits. Imagine it, your chest pressed flat to stone, your arms dragging you forward inch by inch. The air grows hotter, thinner. Dust fills your mouth, your nostrils. You cannot turn back easily. The tunnel is too narrow. Panic claws at your chest, but you keep moving because to stop is to suffocate. Your fingers bleed from scraping rock. Your knees swell and split. Still you crawl. At the end of these passages, or weights, flakes of silver, threads of gold, veins of copper glinting in the lamplight. The children claw at them with small picks, with sharp stones, with bare hands when tools are denied. Their fingernails tear. Their palms split. But they dig, filling sacks that are dragged back through the tunnel, sometimes heavier than the child who carried them. Not all return. Sometimes the tunnel shifts, stones falling like teeth from a jaw, crushing a child where he crawls. Sometimes the lamp sputters out, leaving her in absolute blackness, disoriented, unable to move forward or back. Sometimes panic overwhelms, the air too thin, the chest too tight, and the child collapses, sobbing, until the earth swallows him whole. Those who do emerge are pale, trembling, their eyes wide, their breaths shallow. They lie gasping on the ground, chests rising and falling in quick, desperate bursts. The overseers give them no rest. Another sack is thrust forward, another tunnel assigned. The cycle repeats until exhaustion claims them. The youngest are often no more than 5 or 6. Sold by desperate families. Captured in raids. Born into slavery. Some are orphans, abandoned to the mines because no one else would take them. They do not know fields or skies, games or laughter. They know only stone, dust, darkness. Their childhood is devoured before it begins. You hear their voices sometimes, high, thin cries echoing through the tunnels. A boy calling for his mother. A girl begging the gods for light. Their words are carried through shafts, twisted by echoes until they sound more like ghosts than children. And perhaps that is what they are, living ghosts, trapped in the earth long before death takes them. Archaeologists, centuries later, would find evidence of these small bodies. Skeletons narrow, spines bent unnaturally, bones worn from crawling. Marks of labor carved into frames that should have been chasing goats or playing in courtyards. The mines did not wait for men to grow. They consumed the young before they had a chance to live. Even outside the tunnels, children labor. They carry water, though rarely enough of it. They fetch tools, though tools often weigh nearly as much as they do. They haul small baskets of ore, staggering beneath loads that bow their backs. Their feet bleed, their shoulders bruise, their voices crack with coughing. And still, they are considered useful. Rome had no shortage of words for its wealth, but no words for this. The poets praised children as symbols of innocence, as flowers of the empire. But not these children. These were hidden, buried, erased from memory. Their innocence was spent in darkness, traded for silver coins stamped with an emperor's face. Imagine it again, yourself no longer grown, but small, weak, terrified. Crawling into a tunnel that presses against your chest. Breathing air that burns your lungs. Reaching with fingers already bloodied for ore you will never own. The overseer waits behind you, whip in hand, torch flickering. You cannot stop. You cannot turn back. You crawl until the darkness takes everything. This is childhood in the mines. Not laughter. Not learning. Not love. Only crawling, coughing, digging, dying. And yet Rome feasts. Rome plays. Rome praises its own greatness, never seeing the smallest shadows it sacrificed to build that greatness. The children vanish into the earth. Rome shines above. And between them, the darkness grows. Down here, death is not an event. It is a companion. You sense it always, when the ceiling groans, when the air burns, when hunger twists your gut. You see it in the hollow cheeks of those beside you, in the blood spat into the dust, in the stumble of a child who does not rise again. Death is not sudden. Death is constant. And when it comes, it is met not with mourning, but with silence. A man collapses mid-swing, the pick falling from his hand. His chest heaves once, twice, then no more. The overseer glances, curses, and gestures. 2 others drag the body aside, leaving it at the tunnel's edge. The work does not stop. The pickaxes keep striking, the baskets keep rising, the whips keep cracking. The mind does not pause for grief. Later, when the shift ends, the corpse may be carried to the surface. Or it may not. Sometimes the dead are left in alcoves, slumped against walls, eyes open and staring into darkness. Sometimes they are buried beneath rock where collapse has claimed them, their bodies entombed with the very ore they carved. No marker, no prayer, no farewell. Just silence, as if they had never lived at all. Those who are carried out fare little better. The bodies are dumped outside the mine's mouth, tossed onto heaps of others, a grotesque parody of burial. Flies gather quickly, drawn by the stench. Dogs skulk near, teeth bared, waiting for night. The corpses are not honored. They are refused. Rome did not grant rights to the condemned. The damnati ad met alla were denied the dignity of proper burial, their names unrecorded, their souls left restless. To the Romans above, they were not citizens, not family, not even human. They were tools, broken and discarded. Imagine the cruelty of it, to labor until your body breaks, to die in the dark, and then to be thrown aside like waste. No family to mourn you, no priest to whisper prayers, no pyre to carry your soul to the gods. Only dust, silence, and oblivion. The living do not dare mourn openly. To pause, to weep, to speak words of farewell is to risk the overseer's wrath. And so grief festers in silence, hidden in lowered eyes, in tightened jaws, in whispered prayers muttered when the guards turn away. Children vanish quickest. One day they crawl into a tunnel. The next they do not return. Their bodies are seldom recovered. The earth swallows them, and the mind moves on. Their mothers weep quietly, biting their lips until blood runs, knowing no tears will bring the child back, or spare them punishment. Women die often in childbirth, their bodies too weak from hunger, their bellies too heavy with labor. Infants born in the mines seldom live long. Some never draw breath at all. Their tiny bodies are hidden in rags, buried secretly in corners when the overseers are not watching. No one records their names. History forgets they ever existed. And the men, so many men. Prisoners of war dragged across continents, their strength consumed until they are husks. Criminals sentenced to a punishment crueler than death, their lives stretched thin by dust and despair. Slaves traded like coin, their value measured not in love or blood, but in how long they can survive the dark. They die, one after another, and the mine absorbs them into its silence. Archaeologists, centuries later, would find bones scattered near mine entrances, tossed without care. Spines bent, ribs scarred, teeth ground down. Many bore marks of malnutrition, of disease, of violence. No graves. No names. Only fragments of bodies once human, now forgotten. And yet above, Rome lavished care on its dead. Senators were laid in marble tombs, their names carved in stone for eternity. Soldiers were buried with honors, their memory preserved in inscriptions. Even ordinary citizens received rights, coins for Sharon, prayers for safe passage, funerals that bound families together in mourning. Not so here. In the mines, death was stripped of dignity. The condemned were denied even the solace of memory. Their bodies vanished, their names erased, their souls abandoned. Imagine yourself, your body failing after weeks of hunger, your lungs collapsing after months of dust, your heart faltering in the furnace heat. You collapse in the mud, eyes closing, breath fading. You think of home, of family, of light. And then you are gone. No one speaks your name. No one lifts your body gently. You are dragged, dumped, forgotten. The mind swallows you whole. This is death without mourning. And yet, in secret, fragments of remembrance remain. A whispered name, spoken softly by a friend in the dark. A small mark scratched into stone, hidden from overseers, a desperate attempt to say, someone lived here, someone died here. A child's toy, carved crudely from scrap wood, left near a collapsed shaft. These are not monuments. They are whispers. Fragile. Fading. But human all the same. The mind erases. Rome forgets. But the silence holds echoes. And if you listen closely, you can still hear them. The cough that became a death rattle. The sob that became silence. The name whispered once, then never again. The bodies lie unmarked. The names vanish. But Rome remembers the ore. Every sack of stone carried from the tunnels, every flake of silver pried loose with bleeding fingers, every thread of gold clawed from the rock, all of it leaves the mine and enters the bloodstream of the empire. Above, the suffering of the condemned is transformed into wealth, into splendor, into power. Silver flows first. Smelted in roaring furnaces, purified into shining metal, stamped into coins bearing the faces of emperors. These coins jingle in soldiers' purses, pay mercenaries at the borders, grease the palms of governors, clink in the markets of Alexandria and Antioch. A miner dies, and a legionnaire is paid. A child suffocates, and an aqueduct rises. A woman wastes away, and a senator counts his wealth. Gold follows, poured into jewelry, into crowns, into offerings for the gods. Priests lift golden chalices in temples, their surfaces gleaming in the firelight. Emperors drape themselves in golden wreaths during triumphs, basking in the roar of the crowd. Above, gold is glory. Below, it is suffering. Every sparkle is a shadow. Copper and iron pour out in bulk. Copper forged into bronze fittings, nails, pipes that channel water into Roman baths. Iron beaten into swords, spears, helmets, the very heart of Roman conquest. Soldiers march with iron in their hands, iron on their backs, iron strapped across their chests. They win battles not with courage alone, but with the ore dug by the condemned in suffocating dark. Rome's wars are fought with the bones of its miners. Even lead, dull and poisonous, becomes wealth. Poured into pipes that stretch beneath cities, into basins, into tableware. Rome does not know, or does not care, that it is poisoning itself with the very metal it demands. What matters is abundance, convenience, control. The empire thrives because the mines never rest. Imagine standing in the forum, coins clinking in merchants' hands, fountains spilling water into marble basins, bronze statues gleaming in the sun. Every sight dazzles. Every sound proclaims prosperity. But if you listen closely, very closely, you might hear the echo beneath it all. The strike of picks. The cough of lungs. The snap of whips. Rome's beauty is not silent. It only pretends to be. The Colosseum itself, marvel of the world, arena of blood and spectacle, was built with iron clamps, bronze fittings, marble hauled with tools forged from ore. The gladiators who fought there may have died in the sun, cheered by thousands, but their deaths were swift compared to the slow execution of those who mined the materials that built the amphitheater's very bones. Temples, aqueducts, roads, bridges, every triumph of Roman engineering gleams with the cost of unseen lives. Each arch, each column, each span of stone has shadows clinging to it, shadows cast by the miners who dug until they could no longer rise. And Rome knew it. Not the citizens in their villas, nor the children chasing hoops through cobbled streets, nor the women gossiping in bathhouses. But the emperors, the senators, the governors, they knew. They signed the orders condemning criminals to the mines. They received the reports of ore shipments. They counted the coins, commissioned the statues, celebrated the triumphs. They knew the price and paid it gladly, because they did not pay it themselves. The wealth of the empire was not abstract. It was measured in the number of bodies consumed below. The more the mines devoured, the brighter Rome shone. And so the cycle fed itself. More conquest meant more prisoners. More prisoners meant more miners. More miners meant more ore. More ore meant more wealth. More wealth meant more conquest. On and on, the wheel turned, crushing lives beneath it, feeding the empire's hunger. You can almost see it, a senator reclining at a banquet, plucking grapes from a golden dish, speaking of Rome's greatness. He does not taste the sweat that earned that gold. He does not hear the cough that shaped that coin. He does not see the child crushed beneath the stone that fed his fortune. Rome's glory blinds him. Rome's power excuses him. Rome's wealth silences him. But the shadows remain. Every coin minted bears not only the face of an emperor, but the ghost of a miner. Every temple altar glitters not only with gold, but with the blood of children. Every sword raised in battle strikes not only an enemy, but the men and women who died to forge it. Rome shines. But it shines with stolen light. And you, deep below, know the truth. You feel the weight of every basket you carry, knowing it will rise to the surface, be transformed, be celebrated. You know the empire's brilliance is bought with your breath, your sweat, your silence. The profits of the empire are not just wealth. They are monuments to suffering. Rome above gleams still. Walk its streets in the height of empire, and you will see a city unmatched, temples crowned with marble, aqueducts carrying rivers through the air, markets overflowing with spices, glass, and silk. Soldiers march in iron that glints beneath the sun. Senators sit beneath painted ceilings, debating laws with measured gravity. Emperors ride in triumph, their heads circled with gold, their names destined for eternity. But you, who have walked below, know what all this costs. Every glimmer of gold in the temples is balanced by a child crawling in blackness. Every coin in a soldier's purse is balanced by a cough that rattled into silence. Every arch, every statue, every road is balanced by a body discarded without prayer. Rome called itself eternal. But eternity was bought with lives measured not in years but in hours, each one cut short beneath the earth. Think of the contradiction. Above, a society obsessed with ritual, with honoring the gods, with remembering the dead. Below, an underworld where prayers were forbidden, where rites were denied, where the dead lay unmarked in mud. Above, laughter, festivals, feasts. Below, silence, chains, hunger. Above, citizens who believed themselves masters of the world. Below, men and women who learned that the world could be nothing but stone pressing in from every side. And yet, it worked. Rome thrived. It expanded, conquered, endured for centuries. Its wealth fueled armies that marched across 3 continents. Its monuments stood for generations. Even today, their ruins rise against the sky, admired, studied, photographed. The Colosseum, the aqueducts, the temples of the Forum, they endure, stone skeletons of greatness. Tourists wander their arches, marvel at their engineering, whisper of Rome's glory. Few whisper of the mines. But the mines are there, beneath the marble and dust of history. Their tunnels stretch silent still, collapsed in places, open in others, bones hidden beneath stone. Archaeologists dig, find scraps of tools, fragments of lamps, skeletal remains bent from labor. Each discovery whispers of lives erased, of voices silenced. And so the question lingers, what is the price of glory? For Rome, it was human. Measured not only in battles won and enemies slain, but in the unseen dead beneath the earth. Measured in lungs filled with dust, in backs bent with labor, in children lost in tunnels too narrow for light. The empire proclaimed itself eternal. But eternity is cruel. Marble crumbles, coins tarnish, iron rusts. What remains? The memory of suffering, faint but insistent. The truth that beneath every monument lies shadow. Imagine yourself standing once more at the mine's mouth. The air above is fresh, the sun dazzling after days in darkness. You hear the city in the distance, merchants shouting, carts rumbling, fountains splashing. Life. Abundance. Order. But behind you, the shaft gapes open, breathing dust, exhaling silence. You know what lies inside. You know what built the city you see. Rome's greatness was not free. It was bought. Bought with chains. Bought with hunger. Bought with death without mourning. Bought with children who never saw the sun. This is the price of glory. And perhaps it is not Rome alone. Perhaps every empire, every monument, every triumph bears such a cost. The names of the rulers are remembered. The monuments endure. But the miners, the builders, the slaves, their stories are buried, their bones forgotten, their voices silenced. History remembers the marble. It forgets the dust. Unless we listen. Unless we walk the tunnels again in memory, hearing the coughs, feeling the heat, smelling the smoke. Unless we whisper the names never spoken, Unless we remind ourselves that glory, always, is built on shadow. Rome fell, as all empires fall. Its marble cracked, its coins scattered, its emperors forgotten. But the truth of its mines remains. The tunnels are still there. The silence is still there. The price is still there. And so, as you emerge from this imagined descent, as the air clears in your lungs, as the dust fades from your throat, remember what you have seen. Remember the children crawling in the dark. Remember the bodies discarded without rights. Remember the hands that struck stone until they could no longer rise. Rome's brilliance dazzled the world. But beneath its brilliance lay shadows deeper than any night. That is the lesson of the mines. That is the truth hidden beneath the marble. The price of glory is always paid in silence. And so, as the story fades, as the torches burn low, may these echoes of the past linger, not as applause, but as memory. Not as triumph, but as warning. Not as glory, but as shadow. Listen. Do you hear it still? The distant strike of picks. The cough in the dark. The whisper of a name never spoken again. Those are the voices of Rome. Those are the voices of its mines. Those are the voices of its price.